buses coming from the north are not allowed to enter the city. That to me is the greatest tragedy of it all, because all the people that are coming into the city are here for a purpose. They're here because it's their livelihood. Some of them are students, some of them are office workers, some of them buy things to buy and sell, from the provinces where they came from and come to Manila. So when I was told by this lady that they had to drop her off in Bukawi, and from Bukawi, problema na niya kung paano siya papasok. So I think this is a very sad state of affairs, and the policy is a very cold-hearted, insensitive policy. Not so much for people like Attorney Ronderis who have bus companies. I'm sure they can survive, but it's really the commuters that we are looking out for. And to say that the pandemic is the reason for clamping down and not allowing them to come to the city, I think it's a lame brain excuse, because they're now forced to ride the colorums, and the colorum vans have no social distancing. At least if you have a 12-meter bus, you can open some windows and there can be fresh air coming in, at that speed of 100 or so kilometers per hour. But in a van where you're almost just 1 millimeter, beside your next seatmate, then it's going to be extremely difficult. So now, because there's a clampdown, because of the policy, what I cannot understand is, I now have complaints that I understand the penalty is 1 million pesos per bus, and they are arrested and they're made to pay a fine. And so all of these things are not discussed. Malayo pa yung usapin ng subway, yung Pasig River, beautification, malayo pa yan. Ang pinag-uusapan natin today, we can talk until we're blue about everything else, but that's a long way down the road. This one is here and now, and it's been going on for almost a year. So now with the TRO, there's supposed to be an injunction. They're not supposed to be arrested, they're not supposed to be apprehended, but that is what's happening.
We love cars, including me, but only 2% of us Filipinos own cars. But our infrastructure is car-centric.
Yeah.
It's not human-centric. And there are 20 kinds of transportation. The first mode is walking. The second mode is bicycle. The third mode is public transit, mass transit. The automobile should be the last mode. When I was 24 years old, 72 years old na ako next month, I have been putting forward even congestion charging. During 2 hours, magbayad ang kotse papasok ng congested areas. Sinunod ako sa Dubai. Every time you cross the bridges of Dubai Creek, you pay about 50 pesos. So that postponable trips, unnecessary trips, wag pumasok sa city. Tapasok ka ng congested areas, outside peak hours na lang. So, with the public transit, let's look at Manhattan ngayon.
Yes.
Yung central bus station, nasa gitna ng New York.
Yes.
Buses should arrive on the last mile to your destination. So let's say destination Makati, the bus stop should be at least 1 mile away. So you walk the last mile, or you tricycle the last mile, take a taxi the last mile. Even in real estate, obsolete ng practices. Real estate practitioners, ano pa rin sila? Location, location, location. It's no longer just location, 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 but connectivity, connectivity, connectivity,
Yes.
accessibility, 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 and mobility, mobility, mobility. Ang dami natin obsolete practices.
We thought that as operators, we also should look out for our passengers. And we know for a fact, our passengers would not like
Yes.
to go down as far as Bukawi, which is almost 30 kilometers away. Kung sa Google po, parang 26 o 27 po. Pero i-count off na lang po natin. Isama na lang po yung inconvenience, kaya trend na lang po. So when those issuances came out, and we were not being consulted, we were not coordinated with, and then MMD also issued a memorandum once the LGUs to revoke our business permits. here inside Metro Manila. So that is really, we really feel being oppressed. We were forced actually to file a case to question these issuances. It is now pending in court. We have requested the Regional Trial Court of Quezon City to issue to us not merely a TRO, but a writ of preliminary injunction. In law, TRO is only valid for 20 days, but a writ of preliminary injunction stays until the issue has been finally adjudicated, which means it goes up to the Supreme Court should it reach that level. But despite that, some of our members have been apprehended for not passing through the North Luzon Express Terminal. Government has compared the northern operators with the southern operators, but herein lies the difference. The southern interchange is in Parañaque, inside Metro Manila. We have tried to reach out to government about this, but apparently our voices are not loud enough for them to hear.
You know, I don't believe that a integrated terminal can be decided upon as an afterthought or a knee-jerk reaction. I'm not against an integrated terminal, but it has to be within the city, as Architect Palafox mentioned earlier. And the important thing is, you have to be connected to something else. Not just dump you there and bahala na si Batman, di ba? Kailangan, pagka nandun ka sa Grand Central Station mo, merong bus, merong jeep, merong tricycle, merong MRT, may LRT, sasakay ka lang. You just go to another platform, there's another something going on, right? I mean, I know what Architect Palafox was talking about, like in New York. I come from Connecticut, I go to New York, in an hour and a half or so, I'm there. Oh, can you imagine that? So the vacuum that's created by the inaction and inefficiency, ineffectivity of government is now filled by all these others that are trying to make a living also. Isipin mo, ang tao na tutulog sa bus station, yan ba ang gusto ng gobyerno na mangyari? I'm sure even you, bus operators, don't want the people to sleep in the sidewalk just so they can try and hope to catch a bus. That's ridiculous. Who decides on what to do about transportation? The IATF? Sino doon? Yung DOTr? Sino doon? Doon LTFRB? The LTFRB is a regulatory board. They're not designing or planning or even thinking of what to do. They're just supposed to, and even what they're supposed to do, to regulate. Hindi nga nila nagagawa yun. Kasi kung marunong sila mag-regulate at tama nire-regulate nila, bakit yung kolorom hindi nahuhuli, ang bus ang hinuhuli? Malaking problema. Malaking problema nun, di ba? That is already a reflection. It's a reflection of what kind of people and what kind of thinking these people have. Now, it is almost Holy Week. Ang akin lang doon, pabayaan nyo silang pumasok. Yung mga bus, kayong attorney Ronda Riz, no? Kayo, pabayaan mo silang pumasok and find their way and then work out a system. I'm sure these bus operators do not also like to be delayed, do not also like to be harassed. Sino ang minumura ng pasahero ng bus pag nade-delay? Yung may-ari ng bus. Kala mo, mumurahin nila sa Tugade? Di ba? Mumurahin nila yung LTFRB? Hindi. Ang aaway nila, walang niya itong bus company.
Kasi decision makers in our part of the world, puro economic cost benefit. Dapat gawin natin beneficiary sufferer analysis. Then society, university belt, ilan estudyante ang apektado? Kung estudyante tayo, aktivista pa tayo. Kita kang Baguio, nandyan yung dangwa, lalakad ka lang. And pupunta kang Bukawi to go to Baguio or something like that. Ilan bus terminals na maliliit lang around University Belt, ilan milyon na estudyante doon apektado. So they will be the sufferers. Sana decision making should not just be economic cost benefit, but beneficiary sufferer analysis. You know, the indicator of a first world country, when decision makers, leaders of industry and government ride public transit.
People who are reliant on public transport, walking or cycling, their welfare, their conditions, their environment has actually deteriorated significantly over time. And I'm hoping that this can become a prominent issue in the coming elections. We need our candidates to focus on this, to talk about it. Basically, when you ask urban planners and transport planners around the world, wherever you see conditions deteriorating for public transport users, for pedestrians and cyclists, it's because government prioritizes the welfare of people in cars. Now, many of us, of course, use cars and are reliant on cars. But our environment has made us what we call car dependent. And this is something we need to fight, because this is what will spell continuing disaster for all of us. If all of us choose to use cars, then we will be just stuck in traffic. We will be in gridlock forever. One very important statistic is that nationwide, only 5% of households use or own cars, and in Metro Manila, only 11.5% of households own cars. So the vast majority of Filipinos are reliant on public transport, walking and cycling. And they should be the group that is prioritized on every road, in our budgets, in our transport planning.
I remember back when I was in college, we had options. I'm not gonna lie and say we don't have private vehicles. We do. But 10 years ago, we had options when we wanted to go to Baguio, when we wanted to go to La Union, when we wanted to go to Batangas. We could easily hop on a bus with our group of friends and enjoy and have a enjoyable summer break. But the past 10 years nga, parang hindi mo na ma-imagine na sasakay ka ng bus at makikipagsapalaran ka dun sa maraming terminal na kailangan mong daanan, maraming mga, lalo na now with COVID, parang mas marami pang potential exposure. Ako nung peak nung traffic, no joke, nag-aangkas ako eh. Kasi alam mo na pag magkotse ka or sumakay ka sa kahit grab car, hindi ka abot on time. So, going back to the problem, productivity natin lahat naapektuhan din. Yung trabaho, yung contribute natin sa ekonomiya sana for a more productive life. Hindi natin na ibibigay dahil hindi tayo makagalaw. Mobility yon. Yes, pangalawa ay yung colorum operations, no? Grabe nga yung COVID. Hindi natin masisi ang mga kababayan kasi walang kabuhayan eh. May tricycle sila dyan, may jeep, ipapasada nila, mag-a-add ng 300-500 pesos a day. Pero itong mga to, they do not contribute to the government anything, but they use the roads, the same roads that we fund from our taxes. And also, they do not follow the minimum health protocols na could be a cause of spread of COVID even more. So, I'm not saying eradicate colorum, but let's give them a chance to legitimize their operations. Yun po sana, kasi pag na-legitimize natin at ma-regulate sila ng mas maayos, mas magandang takbo natin as a whole. Makinig sana dito sa forum na to yung magagandang suggestions ni Sir Robert, ni Senator Nikki, yung gobyerno or yung the next admin, kung hindi man yung ngayon ang makinig, sana yung next admin, sinabi ko nga po noong isang araw, sa lahat ng debates, napakaraming magagandang plano, magpapatayo maraming eskwela, maraming ospital, maraming pabahay, pero walang nagdi-discuss.
Yes.
Anong plano niyo sa transportasyon? Paano ba kami makakarating doon sa marami mong pabahay, sa marami mong pa-ospital, sa marami mong negosyo at trabaho? Paano kami makakarating? Hindi naman tayo lahat ay work from home.
How do other countries and cities do it around the world? wherever you see a high quality and reliable public transport service, usually behind that is a system called service contracting. So there is a contract between a local government or a national government and a co-op or a public transport operator to provide the service regardless of the ridership, regardless of the fare collection. So what happens is government, local government or national government collects the fares but gives a fixed payment to provide the service to a transport operator. We should migrate gradually to this type of system if we want reliable and high quality service. Bakit po? Because under a contract, we can introduce yung mga incentives to make it reliable and high quality. And this is something we should all aspire for. Last year, sa budget of national government, and again this year, may budget para sa service contracting. Let's use this in order to develop a good working model that public transport operators and drivers will be happy with. Importante rin yung concept of what we call just transition. In moving to a new business model, we should respect yung existing operators and try to give them a smooth transition into this new system, which will be more predictable, reliable, stable. They will not be subject to all these risks which they are now facing today. So this is something that the next administration should focus on and continue to work on.
It's not just kasi ganito, kasi ganyan. Hindi lang ganun kadali yun. Ang lalim nito. Nakikita natin yung mga dahon ng gulo-gulo pero hindi natin nakikita yung mga ugat. At yun ang dapat maintindihan ng mga opisyal ng transportation. Kasi kung hindi nila naiintindihan, kumuha na lang kayo na nakakaintindi. Baka yung may nakakaalam, yung mga nakakaalam, hindi makapasok sa opisina nyo, hindi makasalita, or magsalita man ay hindi nyo pinapansin. Hindi ito pwedeng pag-usapan na paminsan-minsan lang. At yung 2 years, news blackout in all those 2 years.